Welcome everyone. For those who don't know, my name is Zan, and I wanted to continue talking about Wilds. This is the second log. Um, as to yesterday was my first, I felt like I was a bit all over the place with what I was trying to talk about, and not only that, but I've had a little bit of issue trying to stay in focus. So getting back into the Ascendance rant, I wanted to talk about the very first thing you see in the trailer, and that is Nata, and what he well signifies, and what he is probably going to be doing in the game. Um, not really sure how else to describe it right now. I felt like I had something better, but either way, Nada's going to be there. He's going to be all grown up, and I very much hope he has a much bigger role in the story than before. And I very much want him to be in like real danger. I want him to like get trapped in some like arbitrary way, like in a hole, ditch, in an arena, the walls cave in, somewhere where he's forced to be in combat in some shape, way, or form with a monster, and he has to muster up the courage for the first time to be in combat with no one else. And I kind of want him to have like trauma almost, not from the situation at that moment, but I kind of want him to like realize that he needs to fight a monster for the first time, and I want him to feel fear, like real emotion, because I don't really feel like he went through a lot of that the first time around. He felt a lot of anger, but it never really looked like he understood the situation he was in. It kind of looked like he understood he was in a little bit of danger when Ray Dow shot at them. He was making kind of a tough decision to destroy the Dragon Torch, knowing that would have big problems with the environment and the ecosystems as a whole. But nothing really became of it because, one, no one was hurt in the Raid Owl blast, which is crazy. And for the Dragon Torch, we as the hunter kind of took that decision away from him. So I don't really feel like he, learned much from the situation, when I definitely feel like more could have been done. So hopefully if something like that happens, I really do want him to be like in danger. It does seem like we'll be playing him for small snippets. Like, I'll even be okay with like us controlling him fighting a monster, but like without a weapon. Like, what if he like drops his weapon and he's like fighting a monster and he realizes the real dangers of being out there hunting monsters? Like, by all technicality, most hunters don't do it out of joy. Granted, some do it out of thrills, some actually do it out of joy, and so on and so forth. Some for glory, or for money, or just out of pure necessity. And so, just him being in that situation, I kind of want him to like be reminded of the fact that Arkveld destroyed his village the first time around. And it's not just Arkveld that's dangerous. Him being trapped in some room with a different monster should remind him of the helplessness that you could easily feel in these situations. And so that he can like mentally grow. Like, we could control him, run around, and the objective could just be survive for a minute or two. And it could be a monster that runs around, charges at you a lot, and we have to do our best to kind of dodge it all without like sacred, without a weapon, no way to block or perfect dodge. and Nata has to like keep himself moving and on his toes, and just realize even if he has a weapon, maybe we're not allowed to use it, and because he's simply too scared to pick it up. Like, I want there to be emotion. Whoa, that was so funny. He got flinched out of that. But yeah, I want Nata to go through more emotion and more serious situations where his life is on the line and he needs to understand that as a whole. Even if he believes himself as a hunter, even though he knows that he's very new and young, he needs to understand that there are real dangers that come with it. And I hope that in the story, whether we're controlling him or not, that he learns from it in some way. So, however they plan on doing it, I do hope they do something. And yeah, I really do wish he can grow and like there be an actual story and actual dangers. Like maybe some people actually get hurt. Maybe Olivia gets hurt through the story, and how do I say it? Becomes unavailable as a support hunter and maybe retires. Just something to show that people can get hurt and things can just change. Even if you don't want them to, they will happen regardless, because this is an extremely dangerous line of work. One that every hunter normally takes seriously, but knowing how young Nata is and how naive he can be, for example, him running at Arkveld out of anger with a rock, or yelling at the hunter saying, "Give me the weapon, why do you even have it if you're not using it?" Knowing these things and learning is a way to grow. And I do hope that they actually try and do that this time around. Especially since I guess Elder Dragons are going to be in it. They're far more dangerous, and I've been watching like people's videos about their opinions of the trailer and their thoughts on the whole situation of what the expansion can have and what it means and what kind of role Elder Dragons take and all that. And someone was mentioning that Elder Dragons are very much like sort of a big unknown to people. Most of the information around them is mostly classified and only really like told to the guild and hunters. And with Nata being so new, it'll only stand to reason that he doesn't know much about them and how dangerous they can be. Maybe he does have a weapon and we can use it and we do start fighting as Nata, but the first monster he ends up being like trapped with alone to fight is an Elder Dragon, and he realizes like, oh, I'm so not ready for this. Some things to like make him think as a person, like, is this something I want to keep doing? Or maybe he might change his mind and want to be a handler like Alma and Eric. Just things to actually make him think about it. Like, these things are serious. Being a hunter isn't just some game. And I really do hope they commit to something to make him grow and see these things. And it'll help a lot of other people like realize, like, oh yeah, like remind everyone who's playing the game, like what we're doing is not a simple job. This, although we are playing it as a game, these things are dangerous. I always considered this game a hard game, and I believe it should always be one. Even though Wilds isn't much of a hard game, it has gotten some difficulty through the expansions. And those things, I don't know what I was trying to say there. But yeah, like hunters, they are strong and trained very well to use their weapon to their maximum, to their best. and to not take the hunts recklessly. Sometimes you just hunt the monster to get them to run away or to capture, or sometimes, if necessary, kill, which is normally a rarity. But yeah, this is lore-wise a very serious job that I believe should take the time to show Nata just how serious that is. And now with Elder Dragons, there's no better time than now to show him like how truly serious it is. So little things like that to like really push the story forward. From the story itself though, not really sure what they could do myself. I'm not like a huge story writer. I kind of wanted, like in the base game, where the frenzy virus that was infected the Dragon Torch to have a frenzy effect on all of the Guardians and not just, oh, it happens to be straining the apexes and that's it. I believe it should have affected all of the Guardians, and all of the Guardians to go on like some kind of rampage. There'd be frenzy Guardians, and they're like causing a racket, just causing problems in other environments, and that would have been a really like interesting thing for us to try and solve, and having to go around from locale to locale to handle, because Guardians are very much like, we don't know much about them, and we don't know how the frenzy would affect them. I would have liked to see a bit of a story arc with that, but that didn't happen, so that's too bad. There was definitely a good idea there. For this time around though, someone did mention in a video that the Doshigumas that were being thrown away by Kushala were kind of glowing red, and I kind of like that idea because it's a very interesting idea to put out there, to where Guardians naturally know and become more aggressive towards Elder Dragons. And I think that could be such a cool like story point for the game to have. Something they should lean into, hopefully. But I don't know what they plan on doing, of course. But that theory is something I like a lot. To extend on that, the idea that Guardians become aggravated and attack Elder Dragons is something that can kind of lean into what Zoshia is, because Zoshia is sort of like a Chimera Guardian Elder Dragon, and maybe Zoshia is not a full like Elder Dragon. Maybe they used Demi Elders like Gormagala to make, but Gormagala, although has a classification of a Demi Elder, is still an Elder Dragon. The only difference being is that Gormagala is just young, just a little baby, until it becomes Shigaru Magala. Like, that's the only difference. One's a baby in the sense of age, and the other one is more matured. But they're the same monster, and it's only a Demi Elder because it's just younger. So what I'm trying to say is Zoshia having Elder Dragon Blood, Demi Elder or not, could be something that affected Zoshia unintentionally, in the sense that it was unintended reaction to the I guess the parts or blood or DNA of it, of the Demi Elder, that caused it to become aggravated and aggressive, even though it itself was the source of it. And that's part of the reason why it became so unstable and difficult to control. The very reason why it started destroying Wyberia, like due to its unstable nature of having Elder Blood, that could be a very plausible idea, and I think one they can lean into if that's true. As far as the elders go, though, I've been thinking about what elders could be in the actual game. Obviously, we have Kushala. Not a huge fan of him, but I've only fought him in World. I've heard he's better in Rise. I think I said that last video, though. And, people do want Namiel back, and I kind of do too. He's very cool in design. But the idea of him is that he spreads water around and then explodes it with his electricity. What happens if you're standing in like a river and he does that? Do you have to get out of the entire river? Or not? Is there a way to differentiate the water he spreads around and the water that's already there? I'm not really sure if there's a good way to differentiate those two types of water. Not only that, but what happens if you're on top of the waterfall and he decides to do his Thunder Slam? Do you have to just leave the area entirely? Do you have to use your Barcaster to just get out of there? Because in theory, his ability explodes all water connected to each other when he does it. He could annihilate entire areas, but how do you do that in the sense of a game? Like, how do we counter that, or how do we get out of the way? How do we manage it? And to me, that just seems very unrealistic to manage. So I have my doubts about him being in the game because of that. Other elders, I guess Teostra is a really easy elder to put in anywhere as long as there's a hot area. I'm not a huge fan of Teostra, I especially don't like his design. I don't know why. It doesn't feel very inspired. Neither does Kushala's. Namiel is a good design because it's very unique. I think Balhazak is a very unique design. A monster of decay and uses it to his will with that unique relationship he has. I'm trying to think. There's Lunastra, but I don't like her any better than Teostra. I do like how they work well with each other, although I just don't like them as a whole. There is Treon and Fatalis, but those are black dragons, which is a whole other deal. Not something they'll do right away or involve in the story, I doubt. Who else? There's more. There's Vilcana, probably, but I have my doubts. Someone did mention, I've never played Old Gen, but I know I don't know how to pronounce it. Orochi Kirin, I think is how you pronounce it, but it's pretty much just Kirin but ice, and he really does fit the Ice Shard cliffs very well because not only is it ice and it matches the elemental theme, but he's smaller than other Elder Dragons and can easily fit into the smaller map that is the Archide Cliffs. So I think that's like a really good, like, oh, not only does he fit, but he fits physically and thematically. Let's see. Someone else in a different video mentioned that if we have Orochi Kirin, how does he interact with Rajang? Because we know Rajang hunts regular Kirin for their horn and become oh, that was a waste of a stun or a KO on top of a chain blade break. Oh well. Um, but so with Rajang hunting regular Kirin, maybe they could have a side quest where um you find a dead Kirin around, and following the traces, you eventually find a furious Rajang that has already eaten the horn of a Kirin. But what happens in this scenario where an Orochi Kirin um comes into the situation and they start fighting? Does Orochi Kirin win? Does Furious Rajang win? Maybe you could have a turf war where it's a 50-50. I think that would be a very cool idea. And on the situation where Furious Rajang wins, does he take the now enhanced horn of Orochi Kirin and eat that and become even stronger? Because I believe the lore behind how Kirin controls thunder, lightning, and eventually ice when it becomes a Roshi Kirin is through some kind of I don't know the word for it, but it's like the opposite of thermodynamics, kind of, where instead of controlling like heat, it controls the moisture in the air, and by using it in a certain way, it can attract lightning, and Orochi Kirin is sort of a enhanced version of this, where it can create ice and drop the temperature. What happens to Rajang if he eats the horn of a furious? What happens to Rajang if he eats the Orochi Kirin? Does he get ice powers or does he get enhanced thunder powers? I don't really know, but I very much like to see what Capcom can do with that idea. This doesn't mean they have to, but just them fighting would be very cool, and I would like it if Orochi Kirin has at least a 50% chance of beating a Rajang, because most of the time regular Kirin versus a Rajang would likely win most of the time, but you know, to provide some variety, because I don't want like one-sided turf wars where you know who's going to win every time, especially with two incredibly powerful monsters. So yeah, Nata being in the story as well as Elder Dragons brings in a whole new like perspective. Um, so we got Kushala, we got Kirin. Um, I guess um uh what what's the Chameleos, I think is his name. I'm forgetting, but the poison gecko that can turn invisible with toxins. He could be a much better fit for the the forest. Um, I do think they're likely going to add Teostra and Lunastra just because they're really easy monsters to put anywhere. Um, and then hopefully they add in Valstrax. I did mention before that I don't find him realistically appealing, but idealistically he is pretty cool, and I like to see what kind of like gear and stuff we get, or just his fight in general. I'd very much like to see what uh, a Valstrax fight in Wilds would be like. Um, I have played Rise, but only base game, so I don't truly know what he's like. So I would very much like to see that and how they could improve upon all these elders. I think I'm personally more excited for new monsters. I get the feeling they're not going to add that many older monsters. Like, just like the base game, they're likely going to add more new monsters into the game. So, we'll just have to wait and see how that pans out. Um, that'll be it for today's rant. If you watched till the end, thank you very much. Feel free to like the video if you want. I'll be doing these hunts every day from now on, all the way up until Ascendance comes out, and then from there, I don't know. I'll go through the campaign one hunt at a time and upload those as I go. Um, yeah. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys tomorrow. Bye bye.